The silver ring. A forgotten promise. There's a small silver ring tucked away in an old wooden box on my bedside table. It's so simple that at first glance, you might think it's worth nothing, just a thin band, tarnished at the edges, with a tiny dent where it once knocked against a stone wall on a winter afternoon long forgotten. But if you look closer, you'll see an engraving on the inside, 2 initials and a date, worn smooth by years of skin and sweat and the passing of quiet days. I found this ring when I was clearing out my father's old dresser, years after he was gone. It was hidden beneath a stack of yellowed letters tied with twine, tucked beside an old pocket knife and a photograph of my mother as a young woman standing barefoot in a garden that no longer exists. Back then, I didn't know whose ring it really was. My mother had been gone even longer than my father, taken away by illness when I was just a boy. There were so many questions I never got the chance to ask, so many stories that lived in the small, silent gaps between the people I loved and the words they left unsaid. I remember turning the ring over in my palm, feeling its cold weight. It felt like holding a secret. One night, curious and restless, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of lukewarm tea, the box of old letters spread out before me like puzzle pieces. I opened them one by one, reading the faded handwriting by the dim light above the sink. Some were short, grocery lists, reminders about chores, mundane little scraps of life. Others were long confessions written late at night when one heart tried to reach another across the silence of a dark house. And buried among them, I found the promise. It was a letter my father had written to my mother, the ink shaky in places, the words pressed so hard into the paper that you could feel them even on the other side. He must have written it when they were young, before I was born, before their hair turned silver, before life filled the spaces between them with noise and obligation. I promise, he wrote, that when the spring comes and the snow melts from the orchard, I will take you there. I will kneel beneath the plum tree where you first smiled at me, and I will slip this ring onto your hand, and I will keep slipping it on again and again, every year, until we are old and soft and full of laughter. I imagined them, 2 young people standing in the orchard, his hands trembling as he turned the ring over her finger. I imagined the scent of damp earth and new blossoms, the hush of wind through bare branches, the quiet giggle she must have tried to hide behind her hair. But life, as it does, found its way between promises and days. The orchard was sold when my father lost his job. The tree was cut down to make way for a road that now leads nowhere special. Children came, me first, then my little sister who only stayed in this world for a few brief months. Then work, illness, bills, wars that belonged to faraway places but came knocking all the same. I don't know if my father ever took her back to that orchard before it was gone. I don't know if he ever slipped the ring onto her finger again, when the spring came and the snow melted. But I like to believe that maybe he did, at least once, when the world was quiet enough to remember how it began. After I found the ring and the letter, I kept them together in that box beside my bed. Sometimes on nights when the rain taps soft against the window and the house feels too big for just me, I take it out and hold it in my palm, just like he must have done. It reminds me that we all have promises we couldn't keep, not because we didn't want to, but because the world keeps moving even when our hearts beg it to stand still. It reminds me that love isn't always about grand gestures or perfect endings. Sometimes it's about a simple silver ring tucked away in a drawer, carrying the echo of a vow whispered under a blooming tree. One day, maybe my own grandson will find this box. Maybe he'll sit at his kitchen table, letters spread out in front of him, trying to piece together the story of a love he never saw but still carries in the color of his hair or the shape of his smile. Maybe he'll slip the ring onto his own finger, just to feel how light a promise can be, and how heavy, all at once. And maybe he'll understand what I do now, that some promises live on, not in what we did or failed to do, but in the way we hold on to the memory of trying, the way we keep believing in spring, even when the orchard is gone. So I keep the ring close. Some nights, I press it to my lips before sleep, like a prayer or an apology or a thank you for every blossom that ever opened and every snow that ever melted, making room for a promise that still hums quietly in the dark.